Good day, evening, night, afternoon, all the people who joined for this session. As you heard, so we're recording the session. So in case you don't want to be visible, like in the recording, we perfectly understand that you keep your camera off. But it would be great if you could engage into the conversation and the activities that we have planned for this session. We also have Alex with us who will help us a little bit on the technical side. So that's really great, at least for the first 15 minutes of issues there. She will solve it. And Lisa already shared in the chat, and she and others will keep doing that for a while. The link to our collaborative notes section document, and also the notes to some of the links to some of the other things that we need. So the link to the presentation, but also the link to the Mentimeter a little bit later. I'm not only presenting by myself, I'm presenting on behalf of my colleagues as well. So Lisa, Jan, Vero, Roma, and Mikala. So not all of them, well, I didn't see Mikala yet, but most of us are here. So that's really great. And we welcome you. We really like the fact that you're engaging with us on co-creating the next chapter for the Professionalizing Data Stewardship interest group. And in case I'm speaking too quick or do not pronunciate right, you can put on the caption as well, because the session is being transcribed. Alex shared with us, so that's also a big help. So before we deep dive into the content, yet it's really important that we stick to our 6 guiding principles at the heart of the RDA community. So the openness, consensus, harmonization, community-driven, non-profit, and technology-neutral, and inclusivity. So in case you feel we are not adhering to these principles, just let us know, and we're happy to address that. What we're going to do today is the first 15 minutes is opening and introduction. So this is actually the opening and introduction. We're going to deep dive a little bit into the history of the Professionalizing Data Stewardship interest group history, and an update of the different task groups. So I will need my co-chairs as well to help a little bit out there. We're going to share a little bit on the Professionalizing Data Stewardship interest group community meetings that we started organizing. And then we will use the main part of this meeting, so 60 minutes, for actually co-creating the next chapter of our interest group. So that will be explained later on. And then we'll do a short wrap up to see where we could continue joint collaboration. In case you have questions or remarks, and definitely we would like you to engage in that 60 minutes as well. Shout out in the chat or just raise your hand, speak up, because this is not about us. It's all about us, professionalizing data stewardship interest group as a community effort. So we're happy to take your voices and your ideas as well. So a little bit on the history of our group. So we were endorsed in 2020. Already 6 years ago, so we're existing, feel like we're existing for a while already. So some of us were actually at the beginning of the group as well, and we stated that we really would like to exchange practices, initiatives, and projects to professionalize the data stewardship aspect. And to be able to do that, we definitely said we would liaise with communities and initiatives in and outside RDA as well, really focusing on fostering the synergies. And we started with branching out like 8 different challenges. You can see them on the screen here. And we actually had in a previous version a really nice image of that. But we're not currently focusing on all of these challenges anymore. It was also a little bit too much for the small group that we started with. So you will see a little bit later on what we're focusing on. But potentially, and they are in, the 2020 version of the our chapter. So this is something we could reiterate and see what is the priority for like our next period. So Lisa, maybe you could explain this a little bit, because this is something that we do focus on right now, and what is important to our group as well.
Yeah, so Jan, are you still okay with me going for this, or? Okay. So this is a graphic that we put together a couple of years ago, and highlights how the interest group at the time and still now has been working. So you see that we have a structure of task groups. They are at the bottom of the graphic. And those task groups, they reflected the challenges that we had identified and that Mike outlined on the previous slide. Some of those task groups were more active than others. Those more active ones are the ones that are outlined by a continuous line, and those that are outlined by a more dotted line were the ones that were less active at the time of the graphic was created. And the interest group quite organically developed a double focus. So when the interest group is considering data stewardship, it considers data stewardship both as a service. So data stewardship, service development, service models, business cases for data stewardship services was one of the original ideas and challenges. And then on the other hand, it is also the interest group is also looking at data stewardship as profession. So considering data steward skills, training, career paths, and so on. And this is how the group has worked. And if we go to the next slide, we also see that the recognized outputs of the group go in this direction. So there's the group currently has six, is there six? No, five supporting outputs that have been through RDA community review and that are all available on Zenodo. There are some further outputs from the group that are available on Zenodo, but that are not considered officially as RDA supporting outputs. So there's a data set, for example, for the last output, the career track survey. There's a full data set that is available on Zenodo for that. But you see that those outputs, the first two analyzed or considered the training landscape for data stewards at a time. So it's an output that at this point is it's 4 years old. The landscape has moved quite fast, but the output, I would say, still provides a quite an interesting snapshot and still provides a very good starting point for anybody who wants to orientate themselves in the data steward training landscape. Then there was the models task group completed a global survey looking at data stewardship service models. And both the data set and the resulting report went through a community review and are available on Zenodo. And then finally, there was another global survey done by the career tracks task group, where the task group looked at the professional data steward professionalization side and surveyed data stewards or anybody who self-identified as a data steward and asked those individuals about their educational background, where they are working now, and where do they see themselves in 5 years' time. And for that, there's a short report and a full data set that are available. Go to the next slide.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah. So as said already, for us, the community is really important. So currently counting this month, we have 368 members via the RDA website. And we started in 2025 with hosting community meetings. So we have been meeting around various working groups and activities and tasks, and the reports that Lisa just shared are an output of that. We have been gathering with small subgroups, but never on a regular basis with the community. So we figured back in 2025 that it would be useful to have more regular community meetings. So roughly once every 3 to 4 months, we started with asking the community what their needs were topic-wise, but also how they wanted to meet and how often. And also exchange with them the need for the knowledge exchange and the peer learning. So that's a really important element of the community meetings. We had 3 meetings, and you can find the link on the slides as well, 3 different topics. So the latest one was on metadata. We also had 2 previous sessions on the training aspect and also the career tracks and the networking. And we have planned our next community meeting for May 18. There's the agenda already available and the registration form. And what we plan to do is continue the work that we will start today and share with a little bit bigger group also outside the context of the RDA possibility to see how we could follow up on what we're doing today and maybe consolidate and put that up and running and start working on that after that meeting as well. So you're very welcome to join. Make sure to register, and we'll update the agenda on time as well. And again, there will be lots of opportunity to really exchange on new newsworthy, on things that events, on trainings that you have been visiting. Sharing those experiences really key to help the community to professionalize as well. Lisa, do you want to update us on the current active task groups?
Yeah, so currently of those 7 or 8 original task groups, we have, I would say, 1.5 active task groups and 1 task group that has for now ceased its activity because it gave rise to a currently active working group. So there's the models task group. It's the task group that did the global survey on data stewardship service models, and has been since the global survey worked towards developing a service use case bank. So the idea is we have within the task group, we have developed a use case template that is very, very close to being finalized. And we're currently discussing how to operationalize it so that data stewardship services could provide case studies, self descriptions of their services. And we would have basically a very simple database that users could go in, look at different service models in different organizations, compare different service models in different organizations. Ideally also be able to do some very simple filtering. So for example, let's say that they're looking for a service model where there's just one data steward available, so lone wolf models, and or they are looking for service models in a particular country or in a particular type of organization. So for example, maybe not in research performing organizations, but they're wanting to see service models in research infrastructures, for example. So this is the case study template is close to being finalized. We went on a hiatus late last year because for a very prosaic reason, the calendar invite fell off our calendars and everybody was so busy that we didn't reinstate the calendar invite, but we're in the process of reinstating the calendar invite. And the models task group will be starting its meetings again, regular meetings. It will be, I think, if I remember correctly, it will be the first Thursday of the month. There will be an announcement in the interest group page as soon as we have finalized it. Then the career tracks task group, as I said, it morphed into the data steward career tracks working group following the survey, and the working group was endorsed in April 2025 and is therefore in the 11th month of its activity. The Data Steward Career Tracks Working Group is developing a Data Steward persona methodology. Quite a few of you on this call also participated in the Career Tracks Working Group session last night. We had a status update there. I'll drop the link to that slide deck and collaborative notes into the chat the moment I finish speaking. The working group is developing the methodology through co-creation workshops and is really seeking to engage the community to identify the specific elements that need to go in an effective data steward persona, and particularly personas that focus on data stewards as employees, data stewards as employees with aspirations, with challenges in their career, and so on. So I'll drop the links in the chat in a second. And then we have the networks task group, which is likely the most active task group at the moment in the interest group. This is a task group that started about 2 years ago and rose out of the Skills for EOSC project in many ways. And it is a task group that brings together the various national data steward networks of data steward communities that were fostered by the Skills for EOSC project, and also some communities that emerged independently of the Skills for EOSC project, but had a lot of synergies with the Skills for EOSC project. The communities currently involved are relatively European focused, although not exclusively European. And the task group provides a forum of exchange for those communities. They have a newsletter. You find a link here. And if you're involved in a data steward community, wherever you are, then it might, and if your community is not part of the network already, it might be quite an interesting way to connect with other data stewardship networks and communities and collaborate, exchange practices, and so on.
Yeah, so next we go, so that's the main focus of this session today is we're gonna co-create, we're gonna review, we'll co-create the next chapter of this interest group. And there you see the link of the current charter. So you don't have to read this through. So we're gonna break it down into 2 parts. And in each part, we're gonna mention briefly what has been written in the current charter, and we kindly ask for your input and your feedback, and together we start the co-creation for the next update, a new version. So we'll start first with first 15 minutes. We're gonna do it in the Menti. We're gonna look at the current way the interest group is working and also collaboration. I will just post the code for the Menti again. Meanwhile, I will share my screen with the Menti. Share the screen. Hi. So can you see now? Yeah, I see people already joining. 6, 7, 8 joined. I guess that's more or less us. 9 joined. Nice. So I will start. So first, just get to know where do you come from, to have an idea. So we have actually French participant is the dominant, is the biggest group here. So most of us are close to the midnight, and meanwhile we have also colleagues from North America. So 10 out of 12. Okay. I'll move to the next one. So we mentioned, as Lisa and Micah mentioned, currently we run this community meeting, so whole IG wide. Have you ever joined this before? I think so far we organized 3 times. Just to see, most of you joined more than twice even. Joined twice or more, so that's very nice. And also for the people who haven't joined before, so now you know this, and the next one will be in May. So hope to see you there too. Oh, sorry. So half. So half of you are familiar with the community meeting. And so currently the community meeting always run 91.5 hours, and for every 3 and 4 months. So regardless you have joined it before, so what do you think? How do you think about the length and the frequency of this community meeting? So if you think it works well, then we just keep this format. And if there's anything you would like to see the change, please need to be shorter. It works well. It probably also depends on the topic. So sometimes if we have interesting topics, then the time flies very fast. I'll just wait for, I think we have 10 active participants. But if you don't have any immediate feedback, we can also slowly move to the next one. Yeah, so currently now we run this 90 minutes community meeting. It always has a topic, and for around this topic, we invite some guests to give presentations, and then we have open discussion. So this is the kind of structure and format for this community meeting. Do you have any feedback about this format? So if you find it's okay, or if you have any good tips for the format of this meeting, please feel free to share here. Love it. So it works well. I think so far we sometimes invite one presentation, sometimes we try to invite more depending on the topics. If all find is okay, then we probably will keep this format. And then, so this is additional question about the task group. So basically now we have 3 active task groups, and the task lead define the way of working. Just wondering if any of you are actively involved in any task group or before. Never involved so far. Sorry for the typo. Involved before, but not at the moment. Never involved before. So hopefully now from this session, you get to know a bit more about the interest group, and then maybe you will join some future task groups for meeting. Yeah, so this is the current way of how the interest group is working. Do you have any suggestions? So things we should do or things we should do more or less? I'll just wait for maybe half minute or 1 minute to see if there's any immediate suggestion. So basically we have task groups. That's the work is defined and led by the lead. And then we have the committee meetings running every 3-4 months around the topic that is relevant to the group. Committee meetings has been a very good addition. Thanks. Engage even more with other IG or working groups on joint relevant topics. Yes, that's gonna be the next question. Dividing the group because the visibility was low in RDA. Okay, so we need to improve our visibility. The revision of the statement work might lead to new task groups and new activity, definitely. So this is, you will also see in the next part of the co-creation, that's definitely might lead to different challenges or triggers and part of the work. So this is about currently the related interest group or working groups within RDA. Most of them within RDA, but also there's CoData RDA Research Data Science Schools. So these are the potential collaborators or relevant groups that has been identified either in the current charter or in one plenary session, I think two plenaries before that, we invited related groups to join the session to give a pitch about the connections with our interest group. Do you recognize some of them? And yeah, please help to rank them to see if some of them actually are really the key collaborator and has very close connection, or some of them actually maybe a little bit distant, drift away depending on the topic or other various reasons. So for this, we would also we can get to know better about how community view the connections and the relevance and importance with other groups. So education, training, handling research data, engaging researchers, library research data, data policy, standardization, implementation. Yeah. See if there's still more votes coming in. Yeah. Interesting. Some of the interest group, I also don't know if they are still how active they are. So that could also be worth checking.
I just wanted to say that because I think this list is from the current statement of work,
Yeah.
right? And I
Yeah.
think some of those groups are actually not really too.
Yeah. So this list is a mixture of the groups listed in the current charter and also the ones we identified in one of the recent plenary sessions. Yeah. So but
Yeah,
then we're gonna check indeed
it's more about the topic for sure, but
yeah.
But yeah, because for example, I think for example the ethics and social aspects of data interest group it potentially even doesn't have an active co-chair at the moment. I had an interesting experience trying to engage with them half a year ago, where people kept sending me around and
Sorry, I missed which group you were having a hard time connecting with.
ethics and social aspects of data. I notified the tab about it, but I don't know if it went anywhere. But and there's also I think some of the other ones they are not too active anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I also know there were some working groups like Fair for Research Software working group actually were quite relevant, but then since they were a working group, so they completed the work. Yeah, so that's why they're not in this list. Thanks very much for the input. I think, yeah, so last one is open question. Do we miss any important partners within or beyond RDA? Besides the groups listed in the previous question. If I'll wait for a second, maybe the answers come in, take some moment. If not, well, please also feel free to add to the shared meeting note later if you think of someone, or join the next community meeting to share. Oh, it's here. Merida group might be interesting to engage with. I think that's a Malthus and work group. They are somehow related with that architecture group. Task networks engage with those engage with the data steward national networks. Is there a need to do something with EOSC association? I know EOSC could still have a group of people from there who worked on the career track for the data stewardship. They are still active and doing something, but maybe under different names.
Yeah, there's the opportunity area 5 at the moment. I'm a member of it, but I have to say, there the heavy focus is currently on training. But it's definitely a group to engage with, and you know, I'm also the annoying member who keeps bringing up RDA interest group there. But I think at the moment it's there's nothing concrete to engage with. But yeah, competence centers, as Romance says also in the chat.
Yeah, I'm also thinking maybe because research assessment has been also a quite active topic nowadays. There is also a research evaluation interest group or a non-traditional research output. So there also have a Koala as well. So there also have something to do with professionalization of professional staff or in research assessment. So there could also be some kind of quite relevant connections there. Oscar's Competence Center.
I just put the stuff from chat into the here as well, then it's all on one slide.
Oh, thank you very much.
But then also, for example, I think, I don't know if Santa is still here, but I was also thinking, like, for example, initiatives like NFDI in Germany, and so these types of also like national infrastructure initiatives, not only European level, might also be something interesting. And then obviously we need to think more globally as well. So where do people in data steward roles who are probably not called data stewards, where do they sit in other parts of the world, and who do we need to engage with in order to capture and engage with them? So it might also be working with library, more library, like academic library focused groups. There might be. I was thinking, for example, like in Europe, we have LIBER as the Academic Libraries Association, and they have a RDM focused working group, for example. And I wonder, for example, I don't know if Piero has some insights on the North American situation, or if there's anybody on the call who might have like insights on, South America or Africa or more towards Oceania, if there's any important initiatives that we're missing from here, because I'm very conscious that this slide is currently very European focused.
Yes, actually in Canada we have the Digital Research Alliance. This is a pan-Canada organization that not only provides funding in terms of digital research, infrastructure, and also there's it also has a very large group of librarians they are doing voluntarily work, but it's in a very nicely organized way. That could be one way to reach out to them. And I believe one of the directors from what we call DRAC, Digital Research Canada, is also a chair member of RDA for, I don't remember, it's Lee Wilson, that's his name. I forgot his position exactly in RDA. So don't take me up on it. But that would be the person to reach out to if we want to have some kind of collaboration in the future. However, data stewardship is still, I believe, still largely under the umbrella of library in the Canadian context. So we don't exactly have very specific titles for data stewards. Let's put it that way. So there are still librarians doing a lot of data steward type of activities. I saw a hand up at some point.
I also saw, I think was Sandra?
Yeah, it was me, yes. So I just wanted to mention, I also put it in the notes, the research software engineers have very similar challenges. I attended the conference of the German Research Software Engineering Association just 2 weeks ago, and it's basically all the same. They are concerned about training, about short-term employment, career tracks, and there's even this discussion, and because Lisa mentioned it, that there's this funding for research software infrastructures, which runs in parallel to research data management infrastructure. And the big question is, how do they overlap? Do they overlap or not? And I think this is also where data stewards and research software engineers are like, they need to figure out where do they overlap, what kind of infrastructures do they share, what kind of training do they share, what kind of career tracks might they share. So just maybe this as a point.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a very good point. And in the Netherlands, we also have now a working group try to work specifically for RCs on profile, the career path, and I'm also thinking now since we are discussing about the next charter or next chapter for data stewardship, because at the beginning, everything was data, and then now it's data and software. And even my group name used to be called Research Data Services. Now we are called Research Data and Software Services. And I recently heard there is also a position in Dutch University. They have a software steward. So I totally recognize this is just a equivalently very similar and the same situation, and potentially maybe even a bigger group, because the research software engineers, they probably always work more at the project level, so the population might be even larger than data stewards to a certain extent. So that's indeed a very nice point to also discuss. I think this is the end of this Menti, so thanks very much for the input. I will stop sharing, and then we can move to the next part to review the triggers, challenges, and objectives. I'll give back to Lisa.
Yes. With this session, we want to start the process of reviewing the interest group's charter, or as it is now called, the statement of work. Because as Micah said at the very beginning of the session, the interest group and therefore also the current charter, it dates back to 2020. And a lot has changed in the world of data stewardship in the last 5.5 years. And we thought it might be time to take a critical look at the current charter and discuss with our community within the interest group if the current charter, if it still reflects the concerns, the challenges that the community faces, and or whether we need to introduce some updates to the charter or the statement of work. Originally, we had planned to do work on this in 2 breakout sessions, but I think it actually makes sense to do it in the plenary room because we are not a big group. So we will now take, basically till the end of the session to look at the charter and specific sections of it and start a discussion. And then the next community meeting of the interest group, the one on May 18th, will also focus on the charter review and potential updates. So what we start today will continue at the next community meeting as well. I want to drop in here again a link for everybody to where you find the current charter statement of work. Make sure that you click on the bottom document, the update 20 October file name document. That is the one that's been approved, and that is our charter. And we will consider particularly 3 areas of the charter over the next 40 minutes. The first section we want to take a look at is the objectives of the group. And you find the objectives defined if you're in the document, if you scroll on page 3. But they're also listed here on the slide. So the currently defined objectives for the interest group are to provide a forum for knowledge and experience exchange in national and international efforts to professionalize data stewardship, to define challenges which need to be addressed to professionalize data stewardship, to design a strategy to tackle the identified challenges, to convene task groups as appropriate to pursue specific outcomes and deliverables, to contribute to global RDA community growth through new members joining this interest group, to simulate collaboration, creation of new connections and cooperation between group members and beyond, so beyond the group, but also beyond RDA. And finally, to organize webinars to promote the work of the interest group. So they're quite utilitarian as they are currently defined. And we would, for the next, let's say about, 5 to 10 minutes, want to pick your, brain a bit, get your sense if those objectives are still appropriate for this group, if you see something that is missing, if you see something that needs further definition or needs to be added. We are a small group, so feel free to open your microphone and just chip in. We have also prepared a mirror board that we prepared originally for the breakout rooms, but you're welcome to use it if you want to contribute via, leaving a note. So in the mirror board, I see that some of you have found your way there. In order to edit, you need to leave your email address, I think, if I understand correctly. It's a mirror board that's on TU Delft institutional account, so that's why you need to identify yourself with the email address. And there in frame one, if any thoughts you have on the objectives, if you prefer writing to talking, feel free to drop your thoughts in there.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I was just wondering, because the first two objectives are seems to be really linked to professionalizing data stewardship. But on the other hand, at least when I'm joining the meetings, I always find really, really a lot of interesting things about data management per se, and also about different national or international networks. But I'm just wondering if all of these is always linked to professionalizing data stewardship, or it's basically about the work that data steward could do, or at least they had in that chart of yours different, I think it was 4 or 5 different data linked kind of positions. I'm just wondering about this professionalizing data stewardship, if this is a correct element or we want to be a bit broader.
Yeah, maybe Arina, if I could react to that, I think that's a really relevant discussion. So I think we took when we established the group, or were about, well, we started with both sessions, we thought about the professionalizing aspect as being in a peer learning, knowledge exchange community where we help each other to do our job a little bit better. So it's not per se the professionalizing is the main topic, but us as a community getting together, we're helping each other to professionalize. I think we are connected to the professionalized part, because otherwise I think we're linking too much into, because there are different groups as well, like the libraries groups and the groups on engaging researchers, etc. So I think that's one of the like distinct parts that we took into account. But what I took from your remark as well is maybe that we could explain this a little bit better, also in the context of what we talked about with regard to the different models, right? As a service and as a profession, because we didn't have that back then, because that was developed after we established as a professionalizing data stewardship interest group. So I think we could extend a little bit now what we mean with data stewardship and professionalizing data stewardship in the side of, in perspective of services and the profession part. So maybe that does reflect already a little bit to what you were sharing. Is more than just the profession part. It's also the services that you run. It's also the data management, etc. So I think we could extend a little bit on that in the new version of the chapter. But it does resonate. I fully agree with you. And maybe others want to react to this as well. Yeah, Romain, go ahead.
Just 2 cents on the discussion about professionalizing data stewardship is perhaps based on several tangible elements that are missing in the landscape and that must to be built, or at least fosters. The first one is recognition of professionalizing of data stewardship missions. And today, as stakeholders and responsibilities are not well defined, the data steward is the person that is responsible of all things that are not in the in the scope of the others, and that's a real problem today. The second thing is about the organization of data stewards. Mons said with colleagues in his publication in 2020 that we will miss something like 500,000 data stewards in Europe in the next years or next decade. Or perhaps it's a bit more than possible, but what is expected is that everybody became a data steward as a first level, and after we have several levels of expertise that could be distributed in the network considering the needs. The third thing is about the recognition of the work of data steward that is not really well tangible. Today, most of the data stewards are well paid, but are not in permanent position. That is really surprising because they are always funded on for instance, projects on short missions, but never in institutes. There are permanent positions that are planned and sustained. So that's also something on what we could work on several ways, I think. And after, I think that's one perhaps entry on that is the entry of competence centers that is federating the first people that are in this framework, trying to see what are the skills availability, the peoples available for review, for mentoring, for instance, but also after for training. Today we are not able to map this kind of network, and I think that we lack availability of skills, not skills, but availability of skills. And about that, I think that working on this kind of landscaping of needs could be great. Indeed, the last thing that I would like to say about that is yes, we are also lots of people with lots of different skills level. And another key point at the global level is to have a kind of certification of your knowledge, because lots of people are saying, yes, no, I'm data steward, but what is behind? What does it mean? How to recognize the work that could be done with several skills, and what could be worse than having no data steward. Sorry to be provocative, but this is only to draw the landscape and where we are. And I think that having something like a state of the art and all the change that we have could be great today.
Yeah, no, and I think Roman, you actually lead us to the next section of the mirror board. So if yeah, we move here because we now quite nicely shifted to talking about triggers and challenges. I don't know, Piero, do you want to take over? Because I think you had a plan for this part of the discussion.
Yes, sure. Thank you. So you are all in the mirror board. You can see that there are several triggers and challenges that have been identified in the 14th and 15th RDA plenary. And what I did for this particular mirror board is that I divided them into I grouped them into different topics, and with certain leading questions that you can to help you to think about what are the triggers that would actually make sense to you. For example, what has driven the growing recognition of data stewardship in your organization or the field, and do you feel that the momentum is translating into more concrete actions instead of this is just something that we're talking about it, we're dreaming about it. So feel free to drop some words here and let us know what kind of thoughts you have. And here, of course, your perspective and experiences are the most valuable thing here. And you can either go through the triggers or the challenges or do it all together like Homa. And or you can also unmute yourself, raise your hand, whatever works for you. So I see slowly the answers are coming in, and maybe I would just quickly mention that actually Homa also alluded to before, and people who are in this field, they are actually also doing a lot of different work, and they are taking different hats and doing data stewardship role activities. So when we talk about, oftentimes when we talk about, when you hear the term professionalization of data stewardship, what does that mean to you in practice? I know that we have Yan here who in TU Delft has a full program that is contained with composed of data stewards, and I'm just curious and wondering whether there are other similar models somewhere, and or if there's none, what would you like to have?
Actually, well, we do have the model, one type of model, and now, well, I think it's well known. You have centralized or decentralized or embedded and different types of data stewards. But from what we saw also, when we talk to other universities, when they do data stewardship, then you see model is one thing, and then how to apply this in your local context is another thing. And I feel the word professionalization is actually, it's like science. Science is a defined way of working that works every time. So professionalization should also, in an ideal situation, I see, should also be, if this is professionalized, that you can apply or you can adopt certain things and then follow the guidelines, or you can make use of the things out of this interest group and then do it and in your own way, and then you still can achieve certain level of objectives that can be measurable, and so this will be the ideal situation. That's, we can say that the stewardship is professionalized, and the professionalization of that. Yeah, so just want to share that thoughts that it's more like looking for a certain way of working in a systematic approach, either as a service or individually for a person to develop and grow. So I feel even now, after a few years with a quite large community, we're still kind of in a phase of exploration. So things always change. So we kind of always try to figure it out how things works and if this is still working in a new context. But I hope later on, at some point, we could say this is the way that actually proved work over time that also works in different times, with different technology, with different landscape, with different geopolitical situation, then can still follow the principle to the work to do the data stewardship.
It's really interesting what Jan is adding now, because I think from the one side, you could say it's good that we professionalize data stewardship, that we have data stewards, or that we have models that like new organizations who want to professionalize could kind of follow. But it sometimes also backfires on us. We at least see that in the Netherlands, there has been this really nice column in Nature written with, well, most of you probably, some of you know Marta Teperek as well. She has written a nice column on the fact that most of the data stewards they are recognized, but then they're recognized as support staff. And that means because they are support staff, they can't apply for grants, etc. So if they would have been researchers on the data side, they would have been able to apply. But now, since they are researchers, which is often support staff, they can't apply anymore. So there's also a downside to being recognized as a data steward. And I don't think we ever foresaw that being happen. We thought that professionalizing is a good thing, and it would create nice career tracks. It would create like discussion on salary and maintenance of your job, sustainability of your job. We never figured out that could also backfire, because you are a data steward, so you're not a researcher, so you can't apply for a grant, for instance. So that's an interesting discussion as well. It has some downsides, a group being professionalized or in the process of being professionalized.
If I can add another perspective to this discussion, it's one of the things that I'm really thinking of these days is that we really need to get data stewards in the funding agencies as well, because what we really see is that we can heavily support researchers. I mean, it's kind of still a lack of recognition, but you can do really good things with them. But then if nobody from the funder's perspective actually check research data management plans and actually check the data is published and how fair it is, it's basically just, it does feel that you're working for nothing. And it's really, it strikes me. I was just talking to one of the university in Slovenia where I'm having lectures in the next 2 weeks. And I was requesting for a local data steward to join me, so that researchers would actually know the person. And they told me, we don't have any. And I was just, but in the form that you need to deposit to the research agency, you need to write a person name, an email address, and everything. And what does researcher then write in there? And they just said, yeah, they leave it empty. So nobody really checks anything. Then it's kind of a question of, is it our work really worth it? So I think it's really important that additional to the work that we do actually for the institutions and universities, that we need to connect to funders, because I see this is a problem also for the reviewers on the level of European Commission. They don't have anyone that would actually really check, how data management plans are written. So just adding as another layer probably here. Thanks.
That's an excellent point there. Indeed, that's I think we face very similar challenges even in Canada as well. And indeed, it's very difficult to check whether the DMPs are sufficient, whether your research data are actually fair enough to be deposited. This is indeed quite a pain point for many. And I really like your idea of getting data stewards in funding agencies so that they can actually provide those expertise for policy writings, for guidance, and etc. Okay. Any other thoughts on any of these any of these challenges and triggers? We see many beautiful layers of stuff. Oh yes, Homa.
It is related but not completely aligned. Sorry for that, but we are working in the Oscars framework, on the EARTH framework, on a paper that is summarizing all concepts that could exist in a competence center ideas. So that means that is not called a competence center. That could be called data steward network or what you want, but linked to the several level of missions that could have a data steward. And this paper is open to everybody. So I would like to invite you, if you are interested, to participate and to join our community to give your input. Indeed, this is also to be linked to the data stewardship, professionalizing data stewardship group. So I don't know how it is feasible to increase the input and the output of this community in the RDA-IG, but I hope it could also be feeded by the elements that are in, for instance, in this mirror board. I don't know. It's to be discussed with the group.
Great. Thank you, Homa, for sharing. Okay, so I think we're reaching almost the end. Just for the very, very last exercise here, I propose that we use the interesting feature of dot voting. I don't know whether you have used it before. So if in the next, in this group, if you need to choose one of the challenges that you would like us to work on or to tackle in the next few years, 2-3 years, which one would you like? So all you need to do is just you put a little dot, you drag a little color dot, and then put it right next to the challenges you're interested in. So we're thinking about one. So the place you can grab the dot is right under the name called dot voting. That's where you can grab the dot and then move to the place you want to put it. Or you can also put a sticker next to it if you want.
Maybe one question to the career track, because currently it only says what does a pathway into data stewardship look like? What about the career progression within data stewardship? Is this also meant, or?
Absolutely. Actually, those blue stickers are just simple leading questions, so they are not they are not direct. They are very much closely related to the plenaries that have been discussed, but those are just leading discussion questions.
Okay.
So you can either you can ignore them and just put notes on it if you are interested in that. Okay, so I see many dots under recognition and then a few dots near the business case for data stewards. I think these two are somehow connected, at least in my mind, because if you want recognition, it's one way can do it is you build the business case to convince the leadership that it's worth investing. And certification, that could be another way to do a recognition, but that would be much longer path, I would say, but definitely that's nice. Okay. And there's networking, knowledge exchange, of course. I think this we will always do as a IG group, as a interest group, to do knowledge exchange as a community service. Correct me if I'm wrong. Other co-chairs, I think that's also could be just in my mind. Okay. Any other last minute thoughts? You want to unmute yourself or anything? Otherwise, I will just hand over to my other co-chairs to wrap up.
Yeah, maybe a question to the group as well, because we saw in the first bit that organize webinars to promote the work of the interest groups. That's something that we haven't really done. It's very time consuming. So we kind of figured that just to stimulate collaboration, new connections, and cooperation, I think the community meetings fit in there as well. It's not a real webinar. And there was a remark earlier on made in the chat as well. They were maybe not visible, or in the Menti actually, maybe not visible enough. So at a certain moment, it would be great if you could respond a little bit on that. Should we do webinars? Should we invest in that? Because it's a lot of work, but we have written it down. So it at least makes sense when we wrote it down. But we need to do it together then. So just wondering what you think about that element, outreach to the community via webinars, or do we have better ways than webinars?
Similar to the community meeting we are running nowadays.
Yeah, we just wanted to add that the meetings nowadays seems a bit as a webinars plus discussion. I think the point here is more that you would promote more the webinars than you would the meeting, even though that at the meeting usually you would have some presentations. So I think you might want to think of if you want to promote the meetings as you know, we are going to present this and this topic, join us, so that this is more visible than in broader RDA community outside the group. But yeah,
it makes sense to have webinars, because indeed it could also be about like reports we write or other ways of output, and like generating interest for that. That's usually not what you do in a community meeting. Community meeting is also not something you kind of record, right? Because it should be about trust and being able to say everything you want, while a webinar would be more like open, exposed, and you do a lot of. So these are different ways of generating, commitment. I still like the fact of having a webinar or more webinars, and engaging more with the, Lisa knows better, but with the RDA in general, and making ourselves a little bit more visible. But it is very time consuming, or at least more than we do now. So we might want to reflect whether we want to keep that as well. And if we keep that, we might need to pick that up as well. Lisa, go ahead.
Yeah, it's something that I was just thinking was also, I mean, I think as a data stewardship focused group, I think at the end of the day, we have overlap with almost every other RDA group in one way or another. And it might be quite interesting talking about webinars to have joint webinars more with other groups where either groups that have just finalized an output or in the process of finalizing output, and have how those outputs, how can they be used by data stewards, how can they be supported by data stewards, how they can be implemented by data stewards. But having said that, I think the organizational aspect of it cannot be we need to take that also into consideration, because particularly these types of joint webinars, they're pain to set up. It just takes a lot of work. But I think it's I've been thinking also looking at what's been coming onto the Mirror board, that I do think that this is an interest group that does have an overlap with almost any other every other RDA group, just because of who data stewards are, what they do, and what's the variety of the things that data stewards do. So there's somebody in our community who is always interested in what any other RDA group is doing. So yeah.
I feel this kind of goes back to what Arina mentioned about the word professionalization. Like, if it is a fact that I think this group, data stewardship, data stewards, has almost a lot to do with any type of research data and any domain. So with many other RDA groups, there's definitely a connection. But then what's in that connection? Is that more the RDM practices, or it is because if we focus on professionalization, is really to sustain the job, to make sure the service model is applicable or fits institutional needs, and those are more the professionalization aspects rather than RDM practices. I feel maybe we also need to, on one hand, you can't really completely separate these two, but we probably also need to remind ourselves about the distinction there when we collaborate with other group, to make sure that the collaboration would help the data stewards individually grow their career path, complete their profile, and help the organization to think about the service model. So this. So I just feel like I finally understand and see the very good point that Elena mentioned. Thank you.
Well, that's maybe also a little bit of a bridge to the wrapping up, because we are 7 minutes from the end of this meeting. So again, we've been shouting out a few times. So shout out to the May 18 meeting. Very welcome. If you want to continue the discussion, maybe we can do the breakouts then also with a little bit of a bigger group, getting more input, and continue the discussion around it. I think because we also touched upon some very valuable points that we didn't have time now to deep dive into, and we can wrap our heads around it over the coming weeks. And hopefully, definitely the co-chairs will pick up and do some analysis based on We also need to do the reporting for the session today. So definitely make some summary out of all the great things that have been shared in the chat, and we have the recording as well, and also in the Miro board and the Mentimeter. So there's so many resources out there. I think there's a second one, so also shout out for engaging with the current groups that are active. So the career tracks, one, the work that, so maybe for the people that didn't participate in yesterday's night's or evening session, depending on where you are. I suppose recordings will be available soon as well. So that's something you could look up as well. The networking group, inviting other communities or community members to engage with them. And then the models group also picking up their activities, as Lisa was sharing. So that's something to keep engaging with. And maybe, because I said I would like build the bridge, I think what we wanted to do with putting this topic for this session is to make sure that we are still grounded in the community and meet community needs. So I think we have a better idea now where we stand in comparison to 2020 when we wrote the chapter, and it definitely needs updating, but it's also good to see that there are some consistent things that we still feel is valuable and worthwhile. It's also a little bit alerting that we are 6 years further and it's still relevant. That means that there's still a lot of work to do, not for us specifically, but for the bigger community around all these topics, recognition, etc. Yeah, definitely. I think, Irina, looking what you were saying, I think that wraps it up really nicely, looking at what we meant when we wrote Professionalizing Data Stewardship, and the whole landscape behind it, with career tracks, with training, with recognition, with funders, with the practical implementation, with the different models, etc. So it's a big like landscape that we're not only connecting to many other groups, it's also a big landscape with potential topics we could pick up. So I think this is also work for the co-chairs to kind of see if we could look at prioritization with the dots. So if you want to do in meantime add some more dots, I think the Miro board is still available like for the coming days as well. So definitely add the dots, or just ping one of us if you want to have a further conversation or want to share some thoughts via the WUFA environment as well. So are there any last thoughts you want to give us before we close the session? I will download the chat as well, and everything is saved, so we hopefully can look at back, all of us, in a few days. But any last thoughts that you want to share? This is your opportunity. And maybe also on whether you like the session, was this useful? Because that helps us prepare for the May 18 session as well.
I think it's a good start, because this is actually, yeah, I think it's fundamental to the topic. Sorry, just late hour discussion. Sorry.
Thanks, Andrea. It's a good advice. A single slide on the background and the current work. We thought otherwise we need to reiterate that, and we've been, well, it's 6 years further, so maybe we can extend that a little bit on what we've done and like share that as well and put that on the page. Yeah, good remark, Andrea. Thank you.
And as the co-chair, I think it's very useful for me because that gives me a better understanding of what still needs to be done. It's not just revising the charter, but also potential works that could be developed in the upcoming years. So I really appreciate everybody's inputs here today, and especially for the ones staying up late.
or skipping their family time. This is supposed to be family time as well, right? After dinner. Yeah. Okay, thanks again to everyone. We'll share with you the outcomes. Oh, just to, if you didn't put your name in the notes section yet, your name, email address, etc., just make sure to do it, because then we have your information as well. And thanks so much for everyone, for co-chairs as well, for leading this session, and see you in the next session, and have a nice after dinner, evening, or sleep well.